Hi everyone, I just wanted to share with you some experiments that I've been doing with polymer clay. This is the work that came out of my first 2-ounce block of polymer clay, and it was the Sculpey 3. I got it at Hobby Lobby. This is the packaging, and it's the Pearl Nacre Perla. It looks white in the package, and it has a really pretty shimmery look to it, like a very fine shimmer. Really pretty, and I was pretty amazed by how many little things I was able to make out of just the 2 ounces. So, and I'm also having some camera issues, so I'm just shooting from my phone right now, so I apologize for the less quality shots here, but I just wanted to share kind of, some of the tools I've been working with and some of the pieces that I made. So I went ahead and invested in one of these. I believe I got this at Hobby Lobby as well, and it's just an acrylic roller, like a rolling pin, and I really like it. It's got a good weight to it, works very well. The clay doesn't tend to stick to it, and I like the color, always a plus. And so I also got 2 sets of these little cutters, and so you can see, like, I don't know where the third one, oh, here we go. Okay, so there's 3 shapes of circles, and then I got the square shapes as well. That's the littlest one. This is the biggest one. Then there's a middle-sized one as well. And then after watching some tutorials on YouTube, I set up this little station, and what I did was I just cut out 2 different cardboard, obviously recycled, these are cereal box recycled strips that would bump up where my rolling pin goes. So I'll show you how this works. I'm trying to do this one-handed. You slide the 2 together, and then on my craft sheet I also used a placemat that's non-stick. I just roll out the however much amount of clay in between the 2 cardboard slides, I'm going to call them, and that helps you even out the height of your piece. And so the very first piece I made, I really tried with this one to fix it up, and it just didn't work out. This one is definitely a flop, but as you can see, I used a stamp here. It's from my favorite stamp collection that I have, and it's the Tropical Travelogue by Graphic 45. It has lots of island themed pieces, and so this is the same stamp on the cardboard. And so when I first stamped it into the clay, it was fine. What ended up happening though was that I put it in the oven, and I don't know, it was the first time using this oven. I moved here not too long ago, and so I don't know if the oven wasn't calibrated correctly, or there was maybe some smoke or something left over from whatever had been put in the oven before. But I noticed immediately, even before the cooking time was up, that the piece was starting to turn brown, and it looked like a piece of toast. And so after I finished this one, I immediately went back to the internet to see, about some troubleshooting and to see if there was a way that I was doing it wrong. Well, after experimenting, I've heard that other people put their pieces in for longer than the recommended time. For me, at least, it works for me to follow the directions to a T, and for this particular brand I just do 275 on the oven for 15 minutes, and that seems to work perfectly. And I think what threw me off also at first was that when I'd first take the piece out of the oven, it would still feel a little bit soft, and so I would think it needed more cooking time, but it actually hardened as it sort of cooled off, and then it becomes really solid. And then most of the pieces you see here have been sealed too. I've been using Ranger glossy accents to seal them, and then I also have some triple thick gloss that I haven't used yet. I'm not going to invest yet in anything like the Sculpey glaze until I see how these wear over time, because I really like glossy accents and I use it all the time, so I might as well just use that if it works for these types of projects. And then another thing I'm going to try is to use a matte gel like this one by Liquitex if I want a more matte look to finish a piece and seal off the clay. So last night I showed a haul video. These are two of the molds from that haul, and these are Martha Stewart silicone molds. And so I went ahead and made one of the chrysanthemums, and this, you can see a little bit of that sparkle that comes in the Sculpey, in that particular color, and gosh, I just really love that sparkle. And I don't know how well my camera is showing. It looks a little bit blurry, but the detail is really nice. It looks exactly like the mold, and it was really easy to do. Just push in the clay and then pop it right out of the mold. The stars were a little bit more difficult, just because, as you can see, there are these fine little points that you really have to make sure that the clay gets in there, but then also make sure you don't have the overlap on the top. And you can also see that the clay left some of its shimmer on there, which I don't mind at all. And so these are two of the stars that I made, and the color here is actually, what I did was I had made this little hoop that I want to make into a pendant, and I stamped on it with some StazOn and I believe a Prima stamp, but that's a lace stamp. And the scrap clay from this piece, when I cut it out, I just mixed it and conditioned it, and then it came out this sort of grayish color. And I really didn't care what color it came out because you can always paint over it. And I actually made these two stars to go on these earrings. And these were made, I used alcohol inks. This is how it originally looked. I used a couple different shades of alcohol ink, I believe. I know Wild Plum was one of them. These are the Adirondack Tim Holtz inks. Wild Plum and Denim. And I just made sort of a swirly pattern in the clay. I didn't mix it all the way. I wanted there to be sort of that swirly look. And so I just did a few drops of each of those colors and then mixed up the clay with my hands. And I stamped on these pieces also, but they came out sort of blurry. And this was a different Prima lace stamp that I stamped with Tim Holtz's Distress Ink and Broken China. And I wanted to heat set the Distress Ink since it does react with water. I want to make sure before I put a finish on it that it's not going to run and bleed. Although, even if it does, because the clarity of the stamp didn't come out too well, I don't think it's going to be a big deal, even if it does run a little bit, the color. And so I made the stars to go right on top of these two pieces. And then I haven't decided yet what color the stars are going to be, but and then this butterfly pendant that I showed you before, this is also from the Graphic 45 Tropical Travelogue collection. This is one of their butterflies, and then on the four corners I used the same butterfly stamp, just part of the stamp, and then I used the end of my paintbrush to, like a small paintbrush, to poke these little holes and make some little designs and stuff like that. And I used Lumiere paints with this, as well as the StazOn in Royal Purple. And after baking the Royal Purple, it was already pretty dark, but it went really dark. It almost looks black, but it's like a black cherry, which is, I like that a lot. And the Lumiere paints, I use these a lot in my projects. These are the highlight Lumieres. It's a light body metallic acrylic. This is highlight violet, and you can see the violet in the corners. And then on these designs I used highlight blue. So I really like how this piece, depending on what angle it's at and the light that's hitting it, it changes color. And I did do Ranger glossy accents over that. And then here's another piece with a graphic 45. This is the stamp from the Tropical Travelogue set, and it's a woman with an umbrella, and she's just, I think she's supposed to look like a flapper at the beach. And I've always really liked this stamp. The clarity in her face didn't come out super well, but I figure with time I'll get better at that. And then around the piece I just used this little embellishment. It's like a plastic star, and I stamped that into the clay, and then once it was baked I rubbed in some Inca gold in yellow gold. And I also used the Lumiere highlight in, I believe, the highlight violet for this one, and then just some little toothpick pokes around. That's where you see like the dotting. And let's see what else. This little pendant I made from a doily stamp by Prima. Also used the highlight paints, and I put a little eye pen in it so that it can go on a necklace. And this is also from the same bunch that I made that was swirled with the alcohol ink. And I just tried these out. 2 little beads, also from the alcohol ink bunch. And I just left these plain so far. I haven't done anything to them, but just I baked them with the toothpicks in them. They're not perfectly shaped, I mean, but handmade stuff is supposed to look, to me it's supposed to look a little bit handmade, you know, a little bit wonky. And this one I would call it the flower garden. What I used with this was, if you've ever seen these little acrylic roses, you've probably seen them on eBay or Etsy. I have a couple different sizes of these roses. I love them. I want to get some molds that are like these so I can just make a ton of them. But I just stamped them into the clay like so. And then off to the side I used a stylus to make leaves, and I don't know how well that detail is coming through, but after I baked this piece I went ahead and dropped some alcohol ink in different colors all around the piece, and then I painted the border with highlight iridescent white. I believe that's the pearlescent white is the name of that one, the Lumiere paint. And it actually just looks silver, but very iridescent. And then these are just some little, I actually was inspired by My Mandarin Ducky, who makes these beautiful polymer clay projects that are just out of this world. I cannot believe some of the things that she has made. She had made a lotus candle holder, and obviously this is not a lotus candle holder, but I thought for my first try at making a flower, I would just do something real small scale, and I used the smallest circle shape to cut this little piece out. It's a little bit misshapen, and then I just went around with a toothpick and just made some designs, and again used the pearlescent white, and then I went over the leaves. I just cut these out with an X-Acto knife straight from the white clay, and I bent them a little bit so that they would sort of look like a natural flower, how the petals bend. And I think that's it. Yeah, so all these goodies for, I bought the block on sale. I think it was around $1.39, something like that. I mean, I'm just amazed by all the versatility of polymer clay, and I really enjoy working with it. And I'm sure I'll have some projects coming up in the future involving polymer clay. So anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear any comments or suggestions about beginning polymer clay, any type of advice, or maybe some troubleshooting that you've gone through yourself. And thanks so much for watching. Bye!